Greetings, sentient beings. This broadcast is not intended for children. Nothing on my channel is. There will probably be strong language and adult subject matter.
But no maturity.
Probably not.
Absolutely no maturity.
Okay, well, Tria, why don't you start with giving people an update on your situation and how you're getting through all this?
Yeah. I was sick all last week. It was not coronavirus at all. It was anemia, basically. I am good now, mostly. My family's all right. We haven't gotten hit, even though my family kind of works in an area where, well, my dad specifically, but my dad kind of works in an area that coronavirus is hitting pretty hard. So I am a little bit concerned about him and him working, but the other option is me trying to do 2 jobs for his one, and that ain't happening. But we're doing okay so far.
Okay, well, good to hear you're faring all right. Minnesota seems to be doing better than most of the country from what I've been seeing, so.
Yeah, well, I have the funky little problem of living in a beach type area. Well, like, I don't personally live in a beach, but the beach is not really that far from me, and stupid people are going to the beach and then going home and then wondering why they're getting sick.
Yep.
And also we have dumbasses who keep insisting on holding church services, even though you can totally do that online.
Yep.
So
okay, well, just a quick hello to everybody in the side chat there. I see Doc Fearson and Dave and Hans.
Hello.
So,
how you people's doing?
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, I heard that, or saw some news piece, I think it was on Yahoo, saying that in Florida, people are not doing very well with the staying at home or social distancing.
No, they're not. And our crappy ass governor is like, I'm not going to do a lockdown because people aren't going to listen to it anyways. And it's just like, but because you're not even bothering with one, more people are going out. Like,
yeah.
I'm glad that my city happens to be doing more smart things. Like, there's more and better things they could be doing, but my mayor of my city has basically said, everybody stay home, everybody shut down except for essential services, or work remotely from home. Don't dine in. Like, he's doing the stuff that he needs to be doing, a lot of the stuff that he needs to be doing. But the problem is that Jacksonville Beach is a separate entity than Duval County. They're a separate city.
Okay.
So Jacksonville Beach hasn't shut down, and people from Jacksonville go to the beach because there's nothing else to do.
Right.
And then come back to Jacksonville.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's Minnesota just went into lockdown on Friday. Although Michigan, which isn't an adjacent state, but one more over, had already been on lockdown for, like a week and a half before that.
Yeah.
So I went out Monday on a supply run and finally found toilet paper in the store. So, I think that was kind of an indication that even with just lockdown over the weekend, the stores have been able to start catching up on stocking things.
Yeah. The thing is that I know where to get us groceries. I just didn't have the ability to go myself.
Hmm.
But things like toilet paper and paper towels and things like that, we still haven't figured out where to get them because Walmart's not keeping up with the demand.
Yeah, well,
Which I would imagine is extremely difficult with people still panic buying.
yeah, they hadn't been here before Friday, before the lockdown, but that's why I was even a little surprised to already be seeing some of the stuff coming back.
Yeah, we have a supermarket near our house, a Vietnamese supermarket, and there, for some reason, people are really shopping there. Like, there's a lot of customers going over there, but none of them are panic buying, which is a good thing.
Yep.
And I am not, and as much as I would like to drum up business for that place, because they're good peeps and they've been in our neighborhood for forever, and they don't act like a specialty store, when they technically could. They're a neighborhood grocer. I am not disclosing that location unless you are a trusted friend, because I don't want people starting panic buying in there and me losing my place to get groceries.
Right.
I've only told 2 other people about that place.
Yeah, at this point, like you say, you don't want to cause a rush on them.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hans, I got an extra 4-pack now that I don't really need, so I'm going to go auction it off on eBay.
If you're going to do that, let me know. I'll buy them off of eBay for you.
Yeah, no, actually, my sister-in-law had been talking about mailing us some if we couldn't find it soon.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But yeah, I found one of the huge packs that's like the 16 mega rolls, so I mean that's enough for a couple of months at least.
Yeah. We have other alternatives. But seriously, like, we're having trouble finding certain things.
Yep.
And
just to let people know, I've got the cough. My throat's kind of thick, but for me, this is just normal allergies. This is just because the weather's warmed up a bit and the wind is stirring up the leaf mold.
Oh yeah, I've been having allergy issues too.
But
pollen is really bad.
That's one of the things that's kind of been a problem for me with this, that basically the only symptom of the thing going around that I don't normally expect to have in April is the fever. So basically the only way I could tell if I get anything else is checking my temperature every day.
Oof.
Because it was normal for me that if I got a cold or flu, unless it hung on more than a week, I never realized I'd gotten sick. Because I've got chronic sinus problems and the allergy always affects my throat. So, but my sister works in a care center, and that's part of their procedures, along with everything else, is that all the employees have to take their temperatures at least twice a day.
Well, at least they're taking that seriously.
Yeah, they, if one person on the staff were to get it, they could spread it to everyone in the building.
Yeah, real quick. My city is full of warehouses, and the coronavirus is going through the warehouses pretty bad. So, which is kind of a scary thing for me, considering how many people I care about are currently working in warehouses.
Yeah, the warehouses are kind of a dicey thing because it seems that they still don't have a really definitive answer, like how long the virus can survive on paper or cardboard.
Cardboard is at least a few days.
Well, I've heard anywhere from 3 hours to a couple of days, depending who you ask.
I would just go with assuming a few days.
Yeah.
But the thing is that it's not just that, you don't have a ton of human interaction depending on what you're doing in the warehouse, but you are touching a lot of surfaces and it is impossible to sanitize everything.
Yeah, well,
and it's even riskier in receiving, because if you're in receiving, then you're more likely to interact with the truck driver as well.
Yeah, I was just thinking along the lines that, the warehouse is getting boxes from, several different factories. So if anyone at any one of those factories packing the stuff up had it, if it can be carried in the cardboard boxes.
It might be. Although, like I said, I think you're far more likely to get it, to have it come in through receiving and the actual interaction with the truck driver.
Well, definitely, just talking to someone who has it, even if they don't have a cough or anything, just talking is putting the vapor in the air, and the virus would be in the vapor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's...
Yeah, the people I really worry about are the cashiers, because their job is to handle everything that everyone else in the store has already touched.
Yeah.
And I would think that at this point, it would be reasonable for the stores to give each of the cashiers a box of disposable gloves so they could change them frequently. But I don't see that going on.
No.
So the only thing I see them doing is like wiping down the belt between customers, which to me seems that's probably more for show than actually doing anything practical.
Probably.
It's security theater.
I think Amiga's wanting a subject change. I don't blame her.
Yeah.
Well. I'm currently trying to get my channel back on track, and my next 3 videos are actually going to be positive ones, because I decided to go ahead and because I didn't want to focus on the virus.
Yeah, there's so many people talking about it that if you can find some other subject at this point, it's probably good.
Yeah, and I'm not 100% sure that just going on like everything is normal is the best idea, but I feel like maybe some people might like relief. So
I think that would be good. And, I mean, the information's out there. It's not like you would be providing anything new that they're not likely to hear somewhere else anyway. So,
yeah.
And unless you have some experience in healthcare or that, there really isn't a need for another channel to be talking about it.
Yeah. So I was thinking my next couple of videos were going to be about some of my funnier experiences growing up Mormon, because there are actually a couple of actual funny ones. One of them is when my mom took us to Disney World instead of Pioneer Check.
Yeah, I've heard you tell that one. That's good.
Yeah. And then the other one that I'm thinking of working on is talking about what it was like watching like kick-ass women in science fiction and fantasy growing up, and being told that I was supposed to grow up to be a submissive, loving wife and mother. kind of get some mixed messages there when you're watching Xena Warrior Princess and being told that you have to grow up and be a mom.
Yeah, that's actually Xena was the first one that came to my mind when you said that.
Yeah.
And that's, I was thinking that, when you were growing up, that was probably when Xena and Buffy were on TV.
Yeah, I wasn't allowed to watch Buffy, but...
Well, I expect not. It had all the demons in it.
Yeah. There were some inconsistencies, which I'll probably mention as well. Which, well, actually, that's partially why I'm writing it, is because there were a lot of mixed messages from my family.
Yeah.
I wasn't allowed to watch Buffy, but my dad would buy me like books on, and like I wasn't allowed to go into demon lore, but I was allowed to read books on like werewolves and vampires and like ghosts and like I've forgotten a lot of it, and unfortunately I've lost a lot of the books. But my dad was super into like the classic monsters. And even though I wasn't really much into horror, which he was kind of sad that I wasn't, because he likes classic horror quite a bit. But he actually bought me a bunch of books, and I used to know so much information about vampires and werewolves, like the old timey stuff.
Well, and I do make a distinction between the classic monsters and the horror movies. That's I don't care for any of the horror, the modern horror, especially not the slasher films.
Yeah.
But like the classic monster movies with Bela Lugosi and Vincent Price, it seems to me those are pretty much a separate genre.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with you on that. Although those, I'm scared easily. So
I remember as a kid, watching those hiding under a blanket.
Yeah.
But I really liked Vincent Price growing up because it's like, he was scary but charming at the same time.
Yeah. I remember little details like one of my favorite details about vampires is one of the old timey ways of trying to get away from a vampire if you were just like average Joe, not really a vampire fighter type thing, was if you came across a vampire, you could toss like mustard, you could toss like grain seeds or mustard seeds across your door, across the threshold of your door, and if you could get across the threshold, what would happen is the vampire would be so obsessed with counting that he would sit there and count the grains. Now, of course, he couldn't come in if he wasn't invited, but the whole point was not to just get away, but have him be so obsessed with counting all the little grains and everything, so that when the sun came up, he'd still be counting them and then get burned by the sun.
Hey, Pirate Kitty. I didn't remember that, but when you talk about it, I remember something about them being, so OCD about things like that.
Yeah. Like, also...
The one I remember that was really thrown out the window was, in the classic Dracula movies, was that vampires couldn't cross running water. That if you crossed a stream or a river, they couldn't follow across the bridge.
I remember that.
Yeah, well, that went out the window, 50 years ago.
Another fun thing is I remember, and I don't remember which country it was, but it was basically like one of those things where it was like, don't be drunk and alone at night. But basically there was a vampire that if you were drunk and alone in a graveyard at night, the vampire would take a club you on the backside of the head, and then and then drain your blood into a bucket and then leave you there.
Again, oddly specific.
Yeah.
Very specific. But I distinctly remember coming across that information as a child.
Mm.
Which I have no clue how I was allowed to read all of this shit.
So how are you doing, Pirate Kitty?
I'm doing okay.
You sound tired.
I've been up early. I was up early today.
Don't do that.
Xfinity is calling me again.
Oh. Yeah, Spectrum keeps bugging me trying to sell me their new streaming service, and it's like, I made a very simple request. I just asked them to email it to me so I could read the terms of it. And they said, well, we'll put the free trial on your account and then we'll send that to you. It's like,
No.
There is no reason that you can't send me the terms in writing before you put anything on my account. And until I can sit down and read it when I have time, instead of when you're interrupting me in the middle of something, I'm not agreeing to anything. I think that's a perfectly reasonable request, and it's like they don't know how to handle that. It's like, no, let us just put the free 2-week trial on your account. No, I want to know how much it's going to cost after the trial runs out.
Well, that's the thing. They want you to agree to the trial and then forget to have the service removed, and then they can charge you for it.
Yep, that's exactly the scam.
Why were you guys talking about vampires?
Because I started off talking about how I was getting mixed signals as a nerdy Mormon child from my parents, because I was basically being told that it was my divine destiny to like grow up and be like a subservient wife and mother. And how I was like reading like vampire hunter stories and watching Xena and seeing all the kick-ass women in science fiction, like Becca Valentine and River Tam.
Gotcha.
And yeah, like I have no clue how I was allowed to like watch or read some of the stuff I was allowed to.
Yeah, Doc Fearson said that the vampire's weakness to sunlight is pure Hollywood. It doesn't come from legend.
I read a vampire book series once. It was pretty interesting. It was about Dracula, but I think it was called Children of the Vampire. But let me check.
Doc Fearsome, I believe you. I am probably like really, really rusty on a lot of this information because, like I said, I don't own the books that I was given anymore. I don't remember the original sources for said books. And it's also been like 15 to 20 years probably, so I can be getting some of that information wrong. However, I do know the mustard seed thing is a thing. The sunlight part of it may not be, but the mustard seed thing was definitely a thing.
Yeah, the book series that I had written had read. Anyways,
yeah,
it was this idea. It was following people who were actually related to Dracula, and that what it was that the oldest child in the family became his estate manager. So there's this old man who's that's your uncle Vlad, right? And when you grow up, you'll work for him, right? The oldest child will grow up and work for him, so the youngest child is left alone. But when they inherit the estate, that's when they learn, he's a vampire. I'm supposed to manage his estate, but also provide him with sustenance. And the people in the town all know he's a vampire because they give him their deformed children. And it was in the book that you're reading. It's actually, this is the second son, not the oldest son. It's his second son. And what happened was the guy tried to leave, and Dracula killed his oldest son and said, "Do it again, and I'll take the other one too." So, and it's just this whole story of the family finally saying enough is enough and trying to get out from under his clutches. It was a pretty good read.
I'd like to read that.
That sounds familiar. I think that I ran across that at some point. I'm wondering if they made a movie of that.
The tagline said Dracula focuses on Dracula's great nephew, who inherits the job of managing his great uncle's estate and his appetite.
Like I said, I'm thinking that they may have made a movie of that, like in the 60s. Because I remember seeing, I think I remember seeing that as a movie, and I think that was probably early 60s. That might have still even been in black and white. Not really a big theatrical movie, but a lower budget thing that was maybe made for TV or something.
Yeah, but no, I don't know if it's going to be my next video or the video after, but the next one is going to be Enjoy Your Confusion, Nerdy Mormon Girl.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, well, like I was saying earlier, I feel like we're so overwhelmed with crappy topics. I might and also it feels odd criticizing the Mormon Church right now, because technically, for all practical purposes, the Mormon Church is mostly shut down.
Okay, so
a broken clock is right twice a day. Just remember that.
There is that.
Yeah. It's
well, even more so, a broken clock is right to within an hour somewhere in the world.
That is true too. It's just, it feels odd. Like I know I probably should, because more people are at home and watching more of the YouTubes. But and technically the church is still taking people's money and still hoarding it, but it still feels odd.
Yeah, in the side chat there, Hans, we're talking about how trolls reacted to sunlight.
Trolls are not my deal. That is my sister's deal. That was her. She got obsessed with trolls because there were the little troll dolls in the 80s.
Yep, I remember those.
Yeah, she had about 100 of them, and she could tell you if one was missing and which one exactly was missing.
Yep.
Now, you also have to remember my sister is partially nonverbal, so for her to remember something like that, and say it was kind of interesting for us, because we were just like, how do you remember which one is missing?
And to me, that is a hint that she could be autistic.
Yeah, and it's really difficult right now because I kind of want to get her diagnosed, but I also don't wanna. Because if we do, and she is, that might open people up to pressing us into ABA therapy or trying to sneak it behind my back. Because
sorry, what's ABA therapy?
I don't remember what the full name is called, but it's basically trying to make you appear as if you are not neurodivergent.
Oh,
Like stuff like my sister squeaks and like any fidgeting that she does, they would try to get rid of. And those are not things that I really care about. I
yeah.
basically more care about making sure that I'm reading her properly and that we're able to communicate when things are wrong.
Yeah, I agree that that doesn't really sound
Applied
like a very
behavioral analysis.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't really sound like that is that useful. It sounds like it's just the idea of trying to hide it in public. It doesn't sound like it's helping the person with it to function. It's just making people around them more comfortable.
Yeah, and that's not something I want at all.
No.
And I've noticed a trend of people who are saying that they're not doing ABA, but they are.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's kind of it's one of those things where it's like I'm trying to weigh the benefits and the risks of this and seeing if I have a way to help without putting her in possible danger.
Yeah. Orla had added that to the chat, the applied behavior analysis.
Yeah.
Apparently, there's a very significant lag between the StreamYards and YouTube today.
Yeah. Although, for some good news, she finally told me that she does better. She writes things down and hands them to me instead. So I have like post-it notes all over the place now, but at least I'm not having to guess anymore on some things.
Yeah, if she feels that's a clearer way for her to communicate, all the better.
Yeah.
And I have known, well, I know several people who are on the autistic spectrum that, it's pretty clear to us that they are, but they have not wanted to get any official diagnosis. So it is a pretty much individual thing that, some people feel it may help. Some people feel that it's probably not worth it.
Yeah, and she hasn't been clear on that with me either. Like, she's done like a lot of her own research, and she's good at research, so, but like, she hasn't really been clear. She hasn't really pushed for me to do or say anything. Yeah, and that's my concern, Orla, is like without getting in the middle of her therapy sessions, it's kind of difficult for me because I am not a parent. I am not her guardian. I guide her and I'm there when she needs me, but like I don't want to be invasive on any kind of therapy she's going to be taking, but by not being invasive, I also run the risk of her getting hurt. So it's also difficult for me to gauge where to go from here.
Yeah, and what Orla's saying here about the styming, it's something a lot of people don't get, but it's something, that from personal experience I deal with, that it's much easier to focus and concentrate if I have something to fiddle with. I basically need my hands to be doing something for my eyes to focus properly.
She used to pick her nails, and I wonder if that was something that she did partially out of anxiety and partially if it might have been a stem for her, but she stopped the moment I handed her my fidget spinner.
Yeah.
Now I'd like my fidget spinner back, but I have to buy her own first.
Nope, you're never getting it back.
If you buy her another one, it's not going to feel right.
Huh? You still have the phone? Yeah, I do. Yeah. Also, Amber, you need to come back and get the phone number from me. One of your doctors called. Okay. Sorry, my sister. I thought I'd muted. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. I have a friend of mine who, didn't realize he was autistic until after I got diagnosed. But one of the things that he's a Lego collector, and you can give him a handful of Lego pieces, and he can tell you right off the top of his head. He can pick up each piece and tell you every set that piece has appeared in. It's like he has the entire catalog, the entire inventory of the company in his head. And he can tell you the difference between a brick that was manufactured in 1975 and a brick that was manufactured in 1985.
Ooh.
Just from the mold markings on the pieces.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, for her, she knows a lot about dog breeds. She can look at a dog and tell you exactly what breeds are in the mix. She can tell you about general temperament. She can tell you what kind of physical problems a particular breed is prone to having.
Mm-hmm.
She, it's one of those weird things where it's just like, oh, I trust her completely when she says something about a dog because she just, that's her thing. She knows.
Yeah, as far as the squeaks go, that actually was one of the key things to me getting diagnosed was that the ex I was living with at the time, back in the mid-90s, sat in on one of my therapy sessions and made some comment about my eeps and squeaks. And this therapist that I had been seeing for about a year at that point had never been aware there was a vocal component.
Huh.
Because just growing up with it, I had learned to, just subconsciously suppress it in public.
People tell me that I should discourage that stuff from her, and I'm just like, what's it gonna matter? She's not gonna, like, any job she gets is gonna have to deal with that if she ever gets one.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as your public opinion, you don't count.
Yeah.
So, sorry to interrupt you again. Hi, I finished the call.
So for me, it's just, a matter of trying to keep the volume and pitch down, because I know that, especially if I've been stressed, and one of the things I have found is that I can't get rid of them. I can just kind of push them back for a few hours until I get home. But I know that sometimes the pitch I bring out can truly be ear piercing. And for me, sometimes I'm not even aware I'm doing it, except for the fact that I hear the echo. So I don't even know I made a sound, but I hear the echo come back.
I'm sorry, my sister interrupted.
Yeah, no, I heard her. It was no big deal.
Yeah. No, Orla, I am not having them do anything about, like, getting rid of the squeaks and stuff. That, to me, that feels totally unnecessary. And if we're right about suspecting that she has autism, that would create more problems for her. And no.
Yeah. I don't really see the practicality to that. That seems to me more in, kind of a sort of a denial thing, really. It doesn't seem to me it's something that generally helps the person who has it.
It's to make you appear like you're not a kid, but the thing is that I really feel like our standards about growing up are like really overrated. Like there's obviously a lot of things that if you should be able to work at the level that you're capable of. But to me, all of those squeaks and stuff don't infantile. I know the word I'm trying to say, I can't say it. But it doesn't make her infantile. It's just a quirk. And
Yeah.
it's a non-harmful quirk.
Well, and I think that our society has made a little progress on that. That, you don't automatically, people aren't judging as much of somebody who holds on to things that used to be considered childish. Like it's okay to have some toys and comic books around now.
You don't have to stop playing D&D when you turn 18 or whatever.
Yeah, that sort of thing, yeah. So I think we've made a little progress on that, but yeah, there is still a lot of judging.
Yes, that is the word I was trying to say, and even though you've typed it out, Dave, I can't pronounce it. At least not right now.
Infantilize?
Yeah,
Infantilize.
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 Infantilize. There, I said it like super slow though.
Okay.
But no, when I noticed because the thing is that my sister never got over picking her nails because my mom would just yell stop at her. But I was just like, well, what if I replace it with something else? Because I pick at my skin a little bit when I'm stressed, and I was like, and just yelling stop does not help. But if I give her something else to do, then she still picks at her nails sometimes, but she's more likely to pick up the fidget spinner. Which, again, I'm getting that back. I'm going to find her a different one.
And I think that's generally true of any kind of compulsive behavior, that you can't really eliminate it. You can just trade it for something less harmful.
Yeah, and also she has severe anxiety problems, which are now worse because of her thyroid issues, which I don't know how that's going to be handled because I don't know whether or not that's considered essential or not. Hey, Kate.
How are you? What's up? What's new? What's happening?
Oh, not too much. We were just talking about, people on the autistic spectrum. And
okay. I've taken online tests because I suspected I might be on the spectrum and was 1 percentage point away from being told why, yes, you're on the spectrum. So...
Yeah, I started out with that. I started with an online test that came back and said that there is an 87% chance you're on the spectrum. And then I went and I took that and showed it to a therapist and, actually got everything analyzed from that. But
is there any, benefit to being diagnosed or drawbacks?
Well, that's kind of what we were talking about, that, one of the therapies that's popular seems to be more about teaching people to hide the symptoms of it so that they fit in more socially. And that's I was feeling that's not really helping the person who has it. That's just making other people around them feel more comfortable.
I got stories about that kind of thing that have nothing to do with autism, so I'll keep them to myself. But let's just say I empathize.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that happens with a number of other disorders as well.
Well, like I said, I'm not going to get into it, but still.
And there's Orla. Hello.
But is it just social drawbacks? I mean, is there no I've been diagnosed officially as autistic, and now I don't qualify for this particular driver's license or some shit?
For me, mainly what I want is the ability to communicate with her without it becoming drastic. Because for her, she doesn't say anything, and she pretends well enough that I can't figure out what's going on with her until it's already an emergency.
Now, I just got here. Who's her?
My sister.
Okay, gotcha.
Sorry.
You might find that just getting a diagnosis won't actually help you with that, because you won't necessarily get the information you need. I have directed you to a couple of places, though, haven't I, already, that you could get some information from?
Okay.
Yeah, for me, the value of the diagnosis was mostly just up until that point, I didn't really have a name for it. So just knowing what it was gave me an opening to start researching it.
I have a name for it. That name is Stanley.
Okay.
I'm kidding. I'm just being a brat.
Yeah, but
Anyway.
actually for me, the interesting thing was after I did the online test, I went and I printed that out and I showed it to like everyone who had known me for more than 2 years at that point. And the universal response was, oh, that explains a lot.
Yeah. Well, and the other complication with what I was talking about earlier is everybody is canceling everything right now. In fact, she walked in to tell me that her endocrinology appointment is canceled. So apparently her thyroid problems are considered non-essential. So that's fun.
Yeah. One of my brothers works for a mental health center. And at this point, he's working from home and talking to his clients over the phone. And that's the only thing they can do, is the ones who can't cope without having, someone helping them out. All they can do is over the phone.
Yeah. On the one hand, it's frustrating, but on the other, I'm kind of celebrating a little bit because dealing with transportation kind of bites. But
yeah.
Hopefully they'll give us her results over the phone at least the next time they call.
Yep.
That biopsy was kind of hell on her, so I at least want the results from that. But
yeah, for us, parts of our move-in process have kind of been suspended. There's some more paperwork that they need from us that we can't get, mostly in regard to the animals. Was that, all the animals were supposed to have a vet checkup and show that they have all their shots and everything within 30 days of moving in.
Oof. Yeah. I'm actually kind of glad that the vet's not really seeing Elmer right now because I don't really have the money for it, and he is doing really well. Even by his normal standards, he's doing really well. So I don't have to worry too much about that. Because I was supposed to take him in for an ultrasound and blood work this week. And they basically said, is he fine? I said, listen, he's trying to climb walls. I think he's good.
I've got a very hyper kitty back there behind me. I'm pretty sure he's okay.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that, mine are fine, but yeah, Sammy basically hasn't seen a vet since I adopted him, so it's been over 2 years since he's had a checkup.
I've been getting completely conflicting info. Can cats get the plague, like today's plague, or not?
No.
Okay, because I've seen cats can, I've seen cats can't. I've seen dogs can, but cats can't. I've seen cats can, but dogs can't. Now I don't know who to believe anymore.
The shelters have basically said, all your pets are fine. They can't get it. They can't spread it. It's not commutable or whatever the term is
Communicable.
between humans and pets. And the shelters have been having a lot of problems because people just like dump their pets at the shelters.
Ugh.
Which I guess is better than the side of the road, but still.
Yeah.
It sounds like, I mean, are they actually just getting rid of their pets? Because, wow. I mean, like, I hope they're at least doing it at no-kill shelters.
I would hope so too, but I mean, I don't know. Like, but yeah, especially here where I'm living, the shelters have basically said we have laws and we don't normally enforce them about dumping animals, but we have security cameras everywhere, and if we catch you dumping your animal, you will be fined. And I think it's like a $200 fine now.
Yeah.
Well, but how do they tell? Because everyone will be wearing breath masks when they dump their cats.
License plate.
I was gonna say, yeah, the cars in the parking lot. Yeah.
Well, I don't have a car, but I'm not going to dump a pet either. I got my little Columbia.
Yeah,
right
I can't.
here and-
I know it happens all the time, but I can't get how people do that. If they've had an animal living with them, how you don't get attached to it.
Oh, exactly. I'm very attached to every pet I've ever had.
At times I seem to get more attached to the animals than I do to other people.
I had Elmer for 6 months, and basically he still hadn't quite attached himself to me at that point. And I had to overnight him, at the vet's office because he was so sick. Cat's like, nope. I basically had to leave him overnight, and they were like, we're not sure he's going to make it through the night. And I was like bawling my eyes out for this cat who I hadn't had for very long.
Okay.
I can't imagine just dumping your pet at all. I just can't.
Yeah, so Dave is saying that some form of the virus has been detected in cats, but he doesn't think it's the current strain. But yeah, that's the small town where we used to live in Michigan. There was a story there of somebody who had apparently just left a cat there while the shelter was closed and left it some food and figured it would hang around till the people got there. But of course, when strangers show up, it just bolted into the woods.
Yeah.
So it's like, that wasn't any better than dumping it at the side of the road.
How do you have a cat and not realize that's what the result will be?
Yeah.
Now I'm surprised the cat was there long enough for strangers to show up.
People completely misunderstand cats.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Cats are weird. They can be a bit, I don't know if fickle is the right word, but certainly unpredictable. And yet sometimes they're completely predictable about certain rather specific things.
I think a lot of the misunderstanding comes from a lot of the stereotypes. People will be like, cats are selfish. And I'm like, no, they just know what boundaries are. They know what they want, and they'll get what they want. There's nothing wrong with that.
Well, okay, speaking of stereotypes about cats, one thing that always irritated me about like cartoons was that cats were always portrayed as the bad guys no matter what.
Oof. Yeah,
Like,
that
you
always
look at
annoys
Tom
me
and
too.
Jerry, obviously he's trying to eat Jerry, so Jerry has to be the cool one. But if you ever introduce a cat with a dog, inevitably the dog is the good one and the cat's the bad one. It's just so frustrating that people automatically assume cats are the villains.
Yeah, I get frustrated with that.
Yeah.
I also get frustrated with the idea that all cats are aloof.
Yeah.
And I really feel like the current one I have totally missed that memo because he's just like, "Hello, you are mine. I adore you. You should adore me back."
Yeah, I
I've
think the
had
stereotype
Xander-
pretty much goes back to them, just being nocturnal, that they were, creatures that stalk in the shadows, so people were always suspicious of them.
I've had Xander only like 2-3 weeks now, but he is one of the most gregarious little kitties you ever met. And sometimes when he decides to sleep, like he'll put himself on my thighs, but he'll put his face up against my stomach and give me this big old bear hug, and it's the most adorable thing you ever saw.
Aww. Mine sleeps nose to nose with me at night. He will curl up next to me and he's just like, "All right, time to sleep." In fact, I barely have enough time to get into my bed before he's already like, "It's bedtime, isn't it?"
Yeah. No, I mean, Columbia and Xander are still getting used to each other. And I hate to say, Columbia has gotten even more aloof since Xander's been
Oof.
here. But they are starting to like stake out bed territory, right? Like Columbia will be here and Xander will be there. Right. But if they get too close to each other and Xander gets just a little too active, Columbia will start hissing and swiping at him. I mean, not viciously, more just sort of get away
The
from
warning
me
shot,
and then I
yeah.
want to kill you. Yeah.
Warning shot.
So
And people also misunderstand that too, is most cats will give you a clear warning shot. People just don't know how to read them.
well, part of the problem also is that Columbia has never been one to reel in her claws ever. Like even when she's trying to show affection, she'll be lying like with a paw on my arm, and if I pet her in pleasure, she digs in.
Same with mine. Mine will use the full force of his claws on my neck. Yeah, I cannot train him out of it. I've tried to, but he's just like, he thinks it's the most loving thing on the face of the planet, and I'm like, no, that hurts. Also, please stay away from the windpipe. If I can't breathe, I won't be up to feed you in the morning.
Right, but he can feed off of you for a while.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I imagine him in the morning being like, "Where's the snuggles before food? What happened? I don't understand."
Yeah.
I have never had a cat that when I wake up in the morning, I have to argue with him about getting up and getting food. Because he is so like, I will wake up in the morning and a lot of times he'll fall asleep and I'll be like, "It's time to get up." And he's like, "I am sleeping." "But don't you want food?" "I want food." "No, I'm sleeping."
Well, my cats have learned, and Xander picked this up really fast, that if I clap my hands twice, it means food's on, and they will bolt for their bowls. Like Columbia has stopped this short of making Doppler effect noises as she runs for her bowl. Yeah. Meow.
Yeah. Elmer is like that when he's trying to escape. He doesn't necessarily want to be outside per se. He just thinks it's absolutely hilarious to make a break for it. And watches the funny humans try to catch him and get him back inside. And once we've caught him, he's back to being fine. It's just... And he doesn't want to go very far. He just thinks it's hilarious that we go out there and try to catch him.
Oh, fortunately, I live in a condo complex with a gate, so if either cat gets out, they'll be contained. And Columbia has gotten out a couple of times without me even noticing. Like a screen door was shut and wasn't, and she got out, but she was just exploring the complex for a while. And when I saw her and said, "Columbia, get back here," she bolted for the apartment. So.
Elmer doesn't go very far. He just runs around the perimeter of the house. Like, so that's why I know he's not really for exploring. In fact, one time when my dad was trying to help me, and he does not understand cats or how cats work, so he was kind of making it worse. Elmer looked straight at my dad, climbed up the railings of our porch, which is basically like a column that holds up like the roof over the porch. He climbed up that column and then dive bombed into the bushes while looking straight at my dad.
Yeah. Sammy's a bit disappointed here because in the old building we used to let him run in the halls, and it was pretty much spelled out in the paperwork that we couldn't do that here.
Oh, poor baby.
So just on the cats are evil thing, I love this cartoon.
I love the look on the cat's face, like, hi, I'm trouble.
So, but yeah, I remember that in New York, I got a couple of cats from the feral colony in the park. And that's, I remember distinctly with Fiona, the day that I was just kind of laying there on the couch, kind of dozing off because I'd been just pushing it way too hard for weeks. And, she just jumped up and just curled up right under my arm. And it's like, yeah, that was, the point at which it was clear that it was no longer about the food, that she was there to be a companion.
Yeah.
No, it had started out, I expect that she had been somebody else's cat and had been abandoned. So it had taken like 2 years to get her to trust people again. But just at that point that she wasn't coming around just because we were feeding her, there was something more going on.
Xander and his mom and his brothers were all strays. And so, but they weren't like out on the street for very long. So, Xander is taking to home life really, really well. And I mean, he was never anything other than like friendly adventure kitty. Let's put it this way. When I was at the house where he was being sheltered and trying to choose between him and his brothers, he was the one who decided to climb me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's kind of a, hi, I choose you.
Yeah. I'm just sort of standing there, and the next thing I know, there's a cat on my back getting up to my shoulders like, hi.
Yeah, well, and Guapo, the one that was in the picture for the thumbnail on this, actually got him because my friend ran across his mother giving birth in the park while she was walking the dog, and it was a very cold night. She'd already lost the first kitten because it was too cold. So, I drove over there with a box of blankets and towels, and we, managed to get her into the box in the car and take her to another friend's basement for her to finish having her kittens. So Guapo was one of the kittens. And this was a feral cat, and again, didn't really trust anyone, but realized we had helped her. So, I went over there and I would just sit on the floor and just wait for them to come up to me. And yeah, Guapa was just the one who was most likely to come up and climb on me. So that's the one we took home.
Yeah. It's interesting choosing cats. I remember when I was with the girl for whom I moved to Seattle, and we decided to get cats. We're at the shelter, and it's just nothing but cages, right? And we open the cage, and this one cat just like he backs up a little bit, gets a running start, and goes wee, and lands right here on her chest. And we were like, "Well, I think we're taking him."
It's like, please get me out of here.
Yeah, we also took his sister as well.
Well, that's always good when you can keep them together.
Yeah, that was like 20 years ago. They're almost certainly dead now.
Yeah.
Oh, well, what you gonna do, huh?
Well, as long as you give them a good life while they're around.
And while she and I were still together, we definitely did that.
Yeah, and I'm constantly surprised that so many people think that cats only live like 10 years. And I'm like, no, not if you're really taking care of them. Pretty much all of mine have at least been teenagers.
We had one that lived to be 23 before she finally got sick of old age. Like,
Yeah.
She did not actually get sick until we had a really bad flea infestation one summer, and could not get rid of the fleas no matter what we did, and that's what finally took her out. But I mean, she wasn't acting like a young cat, but she wasn't like really you couldn't tell how old she was just by the way she acted up until that time. She's fairly healthy. I don't know how long I'm gonna have Elmer. Elmer is
Yeah.
every 6 months it's a different story.
Well, yeah, it sounds like he's got quite a lot of health problems.
Yeah, and it wouldn't have been nearly as bad had they not been ignored by some assholes. But we're not going to go into that story.
Well, I need to figure out something about Columbia because she is going to die of obesity before much longer. She has turned into quite the chubbo. Yeah. I mean, I took a picture of her head on, and she looks like a small, thin cat sitting inside of half of a larger cat.
Oh, wow.
Is this a newer thing, or has
it's been developing over years, and I've tried various solutions, but limiting her food intake doesn't seem to help much. And she has never been one to exercise. She won't chase cat chasers. She won't chase laser pointers. She won't do anything even remotely exercise-based. So what can I do?
Yeah, it is hard with a cat. With the dog, they're usually happy if you take them for more walks and get them more exercise, but
maybe if I get like a giant hamster ball. Do they make hamster balls for cats?
I have actually seen cat wheels. And actually, I think you can even buy them on Amazon. It's basically a carpeted wheel on a stand, that's big enough for them to get inside of and run, but I don't know how you ever motivate a cat to actually use the thing.
Well, that's what I was thinking about, a cat ball, because then, you could put them in and seal it up if you wanted.
Yeah.
But, cats don't really like to be confined like that. They tend to be grouchy about it. So maybe not the best idea in the world.
Yeah. I was about to say, I have images of Columbia just like sitting in the ball, pouting and being like, not moving.
And that's when we start rolling it without her consent. Yeah, see, I wouldn't. No.
Yeah. I didn't know what to tell you because my cat never, he basically has two modes. He has hunting playtime and sleepy snuggle time. And he plays really hard. In fact, there are times where I have to get my sister to play with him because I'm just like, I am worn out. I cannot play with you. And he's like, if you do not play with me, I will try to climb the walls.
One thing Columbia loves to do is sit in her cat carrier like just as a fort. Now, mind you, it's padded on the inside. It's got like this furry thing, like a small carpet actually on the inside of it. But she just loves to sit in it and sleep in it. And, just leaving it open on the dresser makes it like she can go in and out as much as she likes, which means if I have to take her to the vet, I can put her in the cat carrier and she doesn't bitch about it.
Oh, mine
Yeah.
does.
Yeah,
I
because she
had to
thinks
get
it's
one
a
of
safe
those.
space.
I had to get one of those carriers that opens up at the top because the way it's set up, it's harder for Elmer to like spread his arms out and prevent me from putting him in.
Yeah.
I cannot put him in the regular way, and you will, and basically he'll just stare at you evilly, and then about halfway to the vet, you'll hear this angry, just yeah at you. I also they've been professional and nice about it, but I've asked them how he is back there because he hates men, and the vet is a male. And the vet just usually smiles and he's like, we've had worse.
I've never encountered a pet. Well, maybe, all right, let me limit it to cats. I've never encountered a cat that had a sex or gender bias. I've never encountered that before.
We had a dog that definitely had a gender bias. That she would not let men in the house at all. I was the only man she would let in the house. The one exception, the one male sort of that she let in was one friend we had who was an absolute flaming queer, and he would say that himself. And the only woman she ever had problems with was a very butch dyke. So I used to say she was allergic to testosterone.
I know a little bit about the family that they came from. They are an acquaintance of ours, and the head of household male was a really major jerk. And while I don't suspect any abuse, I suspect that those two that he was not nice to the cat, and so that made to Elmer, and so that made an impression on him. I know there was neglect in the situation, but I don't. Basically, the guy got fired from his trucking job after he got a ticket, and then didn't tell the family, and disappeared. And they didn't realize that paychecks weren't coming in until the rent was due, when he would normally send the paycheck.
Oh, that's a real adult way to handle it.
Yeah. So I suspect there were other things going on, but Elmer hates males.
Yeah.
He's finally gotten to a point where he's quasi okay with the postman, because the postman sometimes brings packages that have things in it for Elmer, but that's like the line. And Elmer apparently somehow knows when the packages are for him. I have no clue how he's figured that out.
That
yeah,
is
actually, when I went to live with my fiance, one of the cats she had at the time spent the first 2 years trying to drive me away. And that had been her history with like two previous owners, or especially the owner just before her, was that every time she got a new boyfriend, she just neglected everything, including the cats. So, if there was a man around, she expected that the litter box wasn't going to get done and she might not get fed every day. So she figured having a man in the house was a really bad thing. So yeah, that's, they go by their own experiences.
Yeah, and they remember, because the family that that dropped him off with me. Now, some members of the family tried to intervene a little bit earlier, so I'm not mad at them. But the people who tried to intervene in that particular family came to check and see how Elmer was doing. And the moment they walked in the door, Elmer started to freak out as if he was saying, I am not going back with them. Do not send me back with them.
Oh, yeah.
And I was basically in the corner just telling him, nope, you're with me. You are stuck with me for now. You're stuck with me now. You're mine. You're not going anywhere.
Yeah, they definitely remember people, and mostly they identify individuals by smell. So even if the person, never comes into a room, even through a closed door, they'll be able to identify them.
Yeah, and once he figured out that like I wasn't passing him back, he calmed down quite a bit and actually interacted with them. But it was just like, nope, I am not going back. And I'm
Yeah.
So fortunately, I haven't had a lot of contact with them, and they've kind of just like wandered off.
Mhm.
But it was just it made me upset because the people who could have done more didn't, and the people who wanted to do more couldn't.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean. It gets to be a difficult situation. If you see someone who has an animal that they're not quite taking care of, but it's not really to the point of calling in authorities, it's kind of hard to decide what you can do.
I like to describe the way I take care of my cats as benevolent neglect.
Yeah, and a lot of cats will thrive on that.
Yeah. I mean, they tend to also. I mean, they're pretty good for cats, just in terms of health and I don't know, behavior. I mean, like Columbia barely notices when I go on vacation.
Oh, my cat. I have spent I've done overnight trips on occasion, and I catch hell when I get home. Like, how dare you leave me? It's like, you were fed. You were fed, and I know you were played with because my little sister adores you.
Mhm.
And he was just like, no, you left. I hate you.
Yeah, well, that's when I've done the gaming conventions. I generally be gone for 4 or 5 days. And when I'd come back, Sammy would be like, okay, you missed snuggle time for this many days. Now you got to make up for it. And basically just would have to be in constant physical contact with me for the next 3 or 4 days just to try and make up for the petting time he missed.
Yeah, I have a needy ass little cat. Which is probably why I've put so much into keeping the little bastard healthy.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would have put this much into him otherwise.
Well, and with everything going on, I've had my computer set up down here, and I've been keeping my laptop upstairs.
Are there things going on?
Well, just
I
for
know.
for
I'm
me, it's still
kidding.
organizing from the move too. But yeah, my second hard drive, my portable one, is not hooked up to this computer, so I don't have all of my pictures here. But yeah, people think I'm joking about it when I say that half the time I'm on the computer, I have to be balancing the keyboard on Sammy's back. But that's literally true. Yeah, I have had pictures of it. I just Not sure if I've got them in this computer.
Yeah,
You know, because generally what I had been doing, there we are, that I had my computer hooked up to my big screen TV as a monitor, so I just sit in my recliner.
Yeah, I've got multiple TVs used as monitors right now.
Yeah, and this is the standard configuration that I've just got a blanket over my lap, and he wants to lay between my legs, so I just have to put the keyboard across him.
Okay, I'm confused. I'm subscribed to you, and yet your stream does not show up on my subs list.
I've noticed YouTube has been doing that. That these streams are not showing up in my subscription list until after the live stream has ended, and it's just been posted as a video.
That's happening to a lot of people. I'm not getting Diana's notification.
Yeah.
Diana.
Yeah, so it's like when they're actually happening, I don't have a link I can click on to go see them unless I go look at the person's page to get the link.
And the picture you're sharing right now, I could not see it here in StreamYard. I had to go find your channel and then this stream to look at it.
Oh.
That's odd. I saw it in StreamYard.
Yeah.
Well, that is weird. Oh, well.
But yeah, and it seems to be happening, and it doesn't seem to be happening only to the smaller channels. I follow a channel called Kyush, the stunt dog, and I'm not getting any of their notifications either. And they have like, I think, 500,000 subscribers, somewhere around there. So I don't know why I'm not getting their notifications either.
Yeah, Dave said that he's not seeing any of them either. Yeah, and that's been happening to me, that channels that I have followed regularly, that I have trouble finding the links even when I know they're live. They're just not showing up.
Mm-hmm. And premieres don't, like, if I click like set reminder, I don't get a notification until it's at least halfway through whatever video.
Well, yeah, YouTube had always been doing that to me, that, when I click set reminder, I don't get the reminder until half an hour after things have started. So if it's a premiere of a 15-minute video, it's already over before I find out about it.
Yeah, YouTube is really wonky right now.
Well, the thing with getting the late notifications, it's been doing that for as long as I've been on YouTube. So that's been going on for 2 to 3 years at least.
Yeah, but it seems to be getting worse.
It is now, because the levels of traffic are beyond even what they expected with everyone working from home.
Yeah, I have noticed a couple of slowdowns, especially yesterday. I would try to load up even just Facebook, and it'd be like grind. I'm like, come on, man. Especially since if it turns out to be actually my modem needs resetting or something, that takes 20 minutes to reset the fucking modem. I don't know why.
Yeah, well, again, it's, probably because the servers at whoever your internet provider is are being overloaded. So
probably,
it has to wait for the server to send a signal to the modem.
But I mean, that happens even when we're not in self-imposed quarantine.
Oh.
So, I mean, there's times where it's just my connection goes down completely. I have to reset the modem. So I might as well go make a cup of coffee or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing is that my D&D games, the 2 D&D games that I'm currently playing, those are during prime time. Everybody's on because it's on Saturday and Sunday nights. At a not super early time, but early enough to where everybody's still up and doing things. And Roll20 has crashed during our games a couple of times. And that's not been fun. Everybody needs to get off the internet except for my friends.
Yeah,
The internet can work better.
Hans is saying it. He's still waiting for it to start the stream, and I've had that happening a lot too. That it'll wind up coming up with an error page, and until you hit the reset, I'll see the side chat going, but I won't see the actual broadcast. And I've had that go that, even when it was 5 to 10 minutes in, it never came up showing the broadcast.
I should pop out the chat so I can read it.
Yeah, and that's the other thing that we were talking about earlier, that normally the lag between StreamYards and YouTube had only been like maybe 10 or 15 seconds. And now I'm seeing it can be up to a full minute.
Yeah, I'm starting to think I might need to go get food. It's like 11:30 in the morning and I haven't eaten yet. But it's been fun being here.
Yep. Well, always appreciate you checking in.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that you're willing to have me around.
You liven things up, so.
Catch you like the plague.
And I like the bad puns.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's the whole internet is pretty much straining that it wasn't, none of the servers and none of the connections ever anticipated the kind of traffic they're getting now.
Everybody being home and bored. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
Well,
working.
it would be paying for, because technically most of us should have fiber optic, and there are some places in the UK that still have copper,
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
we're
well, and,
definitely not
it's
well.
people working from home, and if people aren't working, they're streaming Netflix or whatever, and, all of that's all got to come through the same connections.
Oh,
So with everybody trying to stream, high definition TV shows and movies.
But it's like, I doubt we were over at my house. I doubt we were getting the internet we were paying for in the first place, because Comcast is evil.
Yeah, Comcast is one of the worst ones. But yeah, that's part of the problem with the US is that basically there's only 3 companies that provide pretty much all the internet service in the US. And you don't even generally have a choice, because in any given city, it's generally one of those 3 companies has a monopoly.
Well, it's because of the way that it's viewed. Basically, like in Jacksonville, you can get either DirecTV or Comcast, and DirecTV is considered in competition with Comcast, even though they work completely different ways, but they're considered in competition, so it's not considered a monopoly.
Yeah, well, they're both providing the same basic service, so that's why it's, considered competition. But yeah.
But it's not really, because, like, the wiring has to be available in order for you to do it, and not
Right.
the wiring exists in all of the city.
Yeah, it's a controlled thing, and it does really suck, because that's companies can get away with things like that by saying that they have some form of competition. And in some cases, the companies have even gone so far as, financing smaller companies just to claim that they have competition.
I wouldn't be surprised if that happened at one point, because we used to have a local company, and then a lot of the services changed suddenly and for no apparent reason, and then eventually that company disappeared.
Yeah. What I would like to see more, there have been a few cities that have basically instituted, a citywide Wi-Fi. So it's basically free Wi-Fi for everyone living in the city.
Huh.
And since the internet has become, pretty much a necessity if you have kids in school or anything like that, especially, I really think that should be done on a general scale, that it should be available to everyone regardless of their income bracket.
I agree. I know that my county, at least, and I don't know if this is something that my entire state does and my county provides it, or what have you, or what the setup is. But if you have children who are in school and you're under a certain income, they basically make sure that you have internet for free. And there's also a middle bracket where if you fall in that middle bracket, you get it for a steeply discounted price.
Yeah. In Michigan, there was a program for that. And because she has a disability, Sloth Girl was getting internet through AT&T for $10 a month. But they haven't found anything like that here in Minnesota, so that's one of the expenses that is significantly higher now.
Because we have so many libraries, I think that's the justification for not doing that for disabled people here, which is kind of bullshit, because even though we have a ton of them, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're all accessible.
Yeah, I was going to say that still is the assumption that the disabled people have the mobility to get out to the library, and also doesn't mention, what happens in the evening after the library closes.
Yeah, or the fact that a lot of our bus stops are in extremely inaccessible places as well. And a lot of these people would be taking the bus. So it kind of frustrates me. I know that the closest program we have to and also they justify it with, oh, well, we have smartphones where they can get a cheapo smartphone and do what they need to from their smartphone. And I'm like, that doesn't always work either. Not everything that you need to access is like mobile friendly. And also some people don't have the motor skills to type on the teeny tiny little keyboard on the like, these people don't think things through. They really don't. Oh, we're
No.
no, there's about to be a hell of a fight over the Postal Service. I've heard somewhere and I need to find the article again, but I heard somewhere that the feds are talking about not having enough funding to do Postal Service, which is complete and utter bullshit.
No, the Postal Service is completely self-supporting. It has nothing to do with the funding of any other part of the government.
That's right.
The Postal Service receives no tax money. They're funded entirely by the sales of stamps and services.
Which means that if there's not enough people working to buy stamps and stuff...
Well, that's the biggest thing that's hurting the Postal Service is that, with email, people don't send letters very much.
Yeah.
So it's, companies like UPX and FedEx, have really taken a lot from the package service, and they had always, their bread and butter had always been just delivering letters, just delivering envelopes. And since that is now a fraction what it was decades ago, that's where they're really hurting, and that's why they wind up increasing the stamp prices every year.
I will need to, Amiga, I will need to find it because there's a huge chance I misread that I misunderstood what I read. Now that Purple brought up some points about how the post office is self-serving. So I need to go back and find that article and see what I was actually looking at. I am wrong about what I just said.
Well, and it is kind of screwed up because the post office does not get any tax money, but any change they make in services has to be approved by Congress. So even when the post office has talked about, like, reducing mail delivery, like not having mail delivery 6 days a week to residential customers, even that they have to fight through Congress to approve any kind of change like that, and that's why it hasn't happened.
Because we can't get hardly anything through Congress except for crappy stuff.
Yep. Yeah, the post office has a very interesting history.
Yeah, and like I said, I forgot, so I must have been misreading. Now, granted, whatever I read while I was still recovering, so I fully admit I have my information wrong, and I need to go figure out what the hell I was looking at.
Yeah, well, and Amiga Nuts mentioned that the post office should offer banking services. And actually, they used to do a lot more as far as banking type services, that especially in small communities, they used to do things like check cashing and that. And they had gotten out of that like in the 70s and 80s. But yeah, I have seen proposals for it that I thought made a lot of sense, that for the post office to take over some basic banking services and possibly even offer savings accounts, especially that those could help the people, the lower income people who wind up using these check cashing places and that, or wind up having to pay Walmart $3 for cashing their paychecks and things like that.
Yeah. That reminds me, I kind of need to check and see if I actually qualify for the stimulus checks that are going out. I remember the original proposal did not include me, so I need to go and check and see.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what the requirements to it are, but yeah, I think I'm kind of left out of that too, because I've got the thing of having a disability that I'm only able to work about half time anyway.
Yeah,
so I don't think I have enough reported income to qualify for that.
That's where I'm finding stuff, is originally it didn't include part-time workers.
Yeah.
And I am even though I work full-time, I only get paid part-time.
Yep.
Which, that's utter and complete bullshit. Like, I understand not making me full-time because then my sister would have to provide certain benefits. Due to how things are written. So I get that, but I'm not allowed to turn in overtime because I'm live-in. And for one thing, and for the other, I will never be paid for the amount of hours that I do work, but I'd like to be a hell of a lot closer than I am right now. I basically only get paid for like 15 hours a week, and I do more like 40 to 50 every week.
Yeah, but Hans, if you put it on the internet, it must be true, right?
No.
Yeah. No, it does sound like, you know, just taking care of your sister is a full-time job for you.
It didn't used to be. I used to be okay with it because like I said, I know there's always going to be some disparity. Like I'm not ever going to be paid for all of the hours that I work.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. But like there's a 30-hour difference every week in what I actually get paid and what I do.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that's
and
getting annoying.
the situation is kind of clubbed me because, you know, I should be out there now building a new customer base after the move. But, you know, so my main income stream there is cut off, but at least I've got some, you know, online hustles I can fall back on. So at this point,
Yeah.
I'm pretty much focusing on, you know, doing eBay and Bricklink.
I'm hoping that they don't pull what they pulled with me year before last. Yeah,
Yeah, I know what you were saying about April, that they really screwed you over.
Well, they changed the rules on that, but I found out at the end of the year last year that I was getting paid $200 less every month. And part of that was taxes going up, which I don't mind taxes going up if they pay for things.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't fucking paying for things. They
Yeah.
still aren't fucking paying for things. And they also docked me because when the minimum wage changed, people who were already being paid higher than the minimum wage, they figured nobody would really be paying attention or know what they were looking at. And I kind of fell into the not knowing what I was looking at thing. And they changed me down to just above minimum wage instead of what I was being paid before. Because apparently they can change my hours. They can't change my hours without telling me, but they can change how much I'm paid for those hours without saying a word.
Yeah, that's not right.
No, it's bullshit, and I think it's technically illegal, but what am I going to fight it with?
Yeah. And that's what they're counting on, is that the people that they're doing this to can't afford to hire lawyers to fight it.
Nope. And no lawyer is going to take it pro bono because, you know, they're not going to win.
Yeah. Well, generally, if they're arguing against a government agency, you've got to have something ironclad.
Yeah.
You know, it's too easy for the government agencies to just say it was a policy change and, you know, claim people were notified of it and they're pretty much off.
Yeah, or, hey, you looked at the paperwork and since you signed it, it's your fault.
Yep. Yeah, when they throw a dozen pages of fine print in front of you and you never know what they're hiding in there, but you're pressured that you have to sign it and return it right away.
Oh, yeah, and we weren't able to do a face-to-face, which kind of freaks me out because our person doing our paperwork for us is an honest person who tries her best to get what we need. I trust her. She's not the problem.
Yeah. No, and it usually isn't the caseworkers. It's usually the policymakers higher up, you know, who have no concept of what the people who need the services have to live through. You know, that's generally they're people who, you know, have never dealt with poverty. They've never, you know, had an idea of being in a place that they needed to ask for help.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a good portion of the problem. Like I said, it doesn't have to be much, but I'd kind of actually like to be back to where when I get my paycheck, I get the same amount that I did originally. Like, I don't think that's too much to ask for or unreasonable. Yeah, I saw a Megadeth's comment. I was just like, bleh.
Yeah, unfortunately, it keeps being what's happening is that the people at the top are getting all the breaks, and anybody who's working class or low income winds up getting screwed over and over. And just even with the situation now, it's like, yeah, Trump was worried about the corporations, nothing really about the workers.
Yeah, like, I get dumping money into the stock market. I understand it, but you can't just dump money into the stock market and it'll be fine.
I'm quiet because I have nothing to add.
Yeah, Orla's been putting out some interesting short pieces lately, though. So if you haven't checked out her channel lately, you should.
Oh, I didn't know you were putting stuff on your channel, Orla.
It's just a few short clips. It's nothing really, and besides my kids time, I can't record anything. So, yay.
Yeah, I can see where recording would kind of be difficult right now.
Yeah. Yeah, as I'm setting up, I'm actually thinking about maybe making this large closet into a little recording studio. It'd be kind of cramped, but it's a small enough space that it might be feasible for me to, actually put some soundproofing on the walls. So at least I wouldn't, get the background noise of the traffic and the neighbors.
Yeah. I would like to be able to soundproof my room, but that ain't ever happening.
Yeah, well, I mean, it would be nice if I could actually do the whole bedroom, but, I know that's not practical. I would not be able to, come up with the resources to do that large an area, even though it's a fairly small bedroom.
And I also don't have a closet to go into, so...
Yeah, well, this one's not huge. It's, it's weird because one wall's at like a 60-degree angle, but, it's like 4 foot wide, 6 foot long, so it's big enough for me to put a desk and a chair into it.
Mine, unfortunately, is not nearly that big.
Yeah. And I'm just kind of figuring that, I really don't need that much closet space. So if I, have some coat hooks, hang my jackets up when I come in, and I've got the closet in the bedroom, that I probably really don't need this one for anything else in particular. So overall, the new apartment's pretty nice on that. That, it actually has a full bedroom and 3 closets, which is steps up on the old place. And the kitchen is like twice the size, so I've got like twice as many kitchen cabinets as I had in the old apartment.
I wish I had that much room, to be honest. I just have my little bedroom.
Yeah.
Hans P. Hansen says, weird thing is that my country has no minimum pay, but we have pretty good unions. I don't know that a union would work for my situation because I'm in a weird position. My sister is technically a freelance agent. I don't remember what the proper term is. And I'm a freelance agent, and she's basically hired me, and we're both independent contractors. She's an independent contractor hiring me, and I'm an independent contractor working for her, and the government just happens to pay me, but she's technically my employer, but she's not the one paying me. So it's in a really odd position.
And again, in the US, unions used to be really good, but over the decades, they've mutated into something else that I don't think helps the workers much. I think that unions have, for the most part, just become an additional level of management that they because it used to be that the unions were actually, the people who were actually working in the trade or, in the factory or whatever were the ones running it. But now most of the unions, they farm out the actual operations and the management and the negotiations, that like they hire management firms to do it. So the people who are negotiating are no longer invested in the outcome. And I think that completely defeats the purpose of the union.
Yeah.
I've just seen too many instances of the people who were supposed to be representing the union basically selling out because it didn't really matter to them what contract was approved. It wasn't affecting their salaries.
Well, and also it's technically illegal to fire workers over unionizing, but how in the hell are you going to prove that that's the reason you got fired?
Yeah, and even the laws on that vary greatly from one state to another, so it's even hard to make general statements on that. Both the laws and how they're enforced.
You're right, that's true too. But that's the thing though, is like, if you get fired for that, because see, it's the same thing with, you're not supposed to be fired for sex, sex, gender,
Yeah.
Religious reasons, being LGBTQ plus. It's all legal, but how are you gonna prove it?
Yeah, you really can't prove it unless you can come up with half a dozen people who have been fired to show that the company has a pattern.
And that's the same way with unions, is if you try to unionize, you have to prove that that's the reason you were fired, and that is really hard to do.
Yep. Yeah, the companies can always come up with some other reason or some other excuse, and usually they'll just say that they were downsizing or whatever and needed to eliminate a few positions. Yeah, and that's, hence what she's saying, that, technically she could, get in and be covered probably in some type of a healthcare workers union if there was one in her area, but yeah,
No, I'm not a healthcare worker. That's how they get away with not paying me. If I was actually considered a healthcare worker instead of a family member getting a welfare handout, which is what Florida considers this to be, is basically, well, we guess we'll feed you or give you a little bit of money, as to help you be able to stay home and take care of your family member, because it would be more expensive to hire a real caretaker. That's part of why I'm in that weird zone, is because basically the way they considered it is, I'm not doing real work. I'm actually a glorified babysitter who should just be grateful I get paid at all. Which again is another bullshit idea.
Yeah.
Oh, Amiga, I am certain that there are still unions that are doing things properly. It's just, it seems to be a trend where a lot of these unions seem to be there to placate people and make them feel as if things are going well.
Well, like one of my exes was, working with the city employees union. And when they negotiated a contract, the negotiations basically, what they set up to have the negotiations was taking the people who were negotiating with it to this golf resort for a retreat basically giving them a free vacation. And yeah, they wound up telling everybody they should vote for this contract. And it's like, of course, most of the people voting for it didn't understand what was in it. So they were just trusting that the negotiators had got them something good.
Oh,
And when
no.
it came through, it came up with a healthcare program, that had payments that most of the workers couldn't afford. For my ex and her 2 kids, it was going to wind up being over $400 a month that she had to pay to get her kids covered under their health plan.
Ooh.
And it's like that was more than half of her paycheck.
Oof. That's more than half of mine. And see, the thing is that I could buy insurance through the ACA, but it's catastrophic. And honestly, as little as I get paid, it doesn't matter whether or not the hospital charges me $10,000 or $100,000. It doesn't matter. Either is going to bankrupt me.
Yeah. When
So
my
I
fiance
found my money-
died, she was sorry.
I'm done.
No, when my fiance died, she was seriously looking at the possibility that she would have to declare bankruptcy just because of all the medical bills. Just because with her asthma, she wound up in the emergency room roughly once a month.
Oof.
That, something would trigger them to the point that she would, need to be there. And she owed like $25,000 just to the ambulance company without even counting what the hospital.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was hundreds of thousands of dollars at that point. And that just shows how badly our system runs, that the number one cause of bankruptcies in America, number one cause of personal bankruptcies is medical bills.
Which everybody is going to get at some point.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a few people who won't, but it is really, really rare.
And it's going to become more and more of a problem, as the baby boomers are aging. We're going to be seeing that more frequently as a society.
Yeah, and also, how many people are going to have kids at the end of this coronavirus, being stuck inside at home with their spouses?
Yeah.
Well,
I've seen some people claiming that this is going to strengthen a lot of relationships, and I've also seen a lot of people predicting that this is going to lead to a lot of divorces. And yeah, I think the latter is probably more likely, because I think there's probably a lot of people who are going to find out that stuck together 24/7, they really can't deal with the person they're married to.
Yeah, I don't understand that concept, getting married to somebody that you like. I get that everybody needs a certain amount of space. I get that, because no matter how much you love the person, you got to find things of your own to do. But I don't get the concept of being married to a person that you don't like. I just don't. I get that over time things can change and that can be the thing, but I've gone to weddings where people are like, "Oh, I'm going to be married to the old ball and chain, huh? My life is over." Like, if your life is fucking over, then why are you doing it?
A lot of, it's often done just for financial reasons. And the government especially gives a lot of financial incentives for people to get married.
That is true, and we've kind of touched on this before, where we've talked about how especially polyamorous couples and
Yeah.
people who aren't married should have have ways to protect themselves.
Yeah, well, and it's the main reason that the gay marriage things have been so contested. It's just there are a lot of benefits that a married couple gets that two people living together can't get.
Yeah.
And especially a lot of it does come into, having to do with medical care and if your partner's in the hospital. And with my fiance, we had medical proxy agreements drawn up, so that if she was in the hospital and she couldn't talk for herself, I could make decisions. And, the hospital had the documents on file for that. So that was good. But it was a pretty cruel blow to, arrive at the hospital and be told that the moment she died, that was void. And I had no rights at that point. I could not say anything about, what they did with the body or anything like that. So, that was all, purposely not spoken to the entire time I had known her. Because, her mother had a very abusive history. Oh, and now we've lost Tria. And I'm in here alone. Everybody just dropped out. So I don't know what's happening now. Here, or where is everybody at? Okay, so everybody got kicked out. Can you get back in? Can people come back in? Do I need to restart the stream, or what do we need to do here? I don't see anybody coming back in, so I'm not sure what to do at this point. Tria, Orla, is the link still working, or do I need to close the stream down here? I know there's a bit of a lag, but yeah, I'm not sure how bad the lag is between what I'm saying and when YouTube is actually picking things up. Okay. All right, so everybody's just getting error messages. Well, we did run over 2 hours here, so maybe we just need to shut this down here for today. And let StreamYards or whatever sort out the problem later. So, okay, well, thanks everybody for coming. I'm just going to close it down here for today. So, we'll be back on tomorrow night at midnight then. And again, I really kind of need to use the daylight time and be doing stuff when I can make noise without the neighbors complaining too much. So I will catch you all later. Thanks, everybody. Remember, keep yourself safe. Stay in.